Hey, what's going on? Eric Bach here, and today we're going to break down 3 proven strategies you can use to naturally support optimal testosterone levels. Now, we're not going to talk about any of that weird biohacking stuff like sunning your butthole, anything that you see all over the internet these days. Instead, we're going to get to 3 tried and true reasons or things that you can do that are going to help you naturally support optimal testosterone production, which by extension is going to help you improve your health, build muscle, lose body fat, have more energy, and cognitive focus. Now, before we jump into this, I would not be doing you a favor if I told you not to get your levels tested. So many people go around because they think they have low testosterone because they're not building muscle, they're not losing body fat, they don't have as much energy as they did before. But the most important thing you can do is get your levels tested, start around age 25, and then do it every single year. The reason is testosterone levels typically peak around age 25, and then they typically decrease after that. When you go to the doctor for testosterone levels, they're going to give you a reference range. A reference range might be 300 to 1,000. Now, for example, if you get tested when you're 25 and your levels are 800, and you go back in when you're 30 and they're 400, your doctor might say, hey, guess what? You're still in reference range. But you know what? If your testosterone drops by half in 5 years, you definitely have a problem going on. So you want to make sure you get these testosterone levels checked early and then do it consistently. And so if you haven't done it before, regardless of age, make sure you're getting your testosterone levels checked before you go and waste your money on supplements, on things like that won't necessarily move the needle for you if there's not even an issue to begin with. All right, so with that said, number 1, the most important thing we need to do right here is we need to get lean. You see, when we have excess body fat, particularly above 10 to 15%, the excess body fat that we have is going to act like an endocrine organ. It's going to increase estrogen, which is actually going to scavenge up testosterone levels, increase what we call SHBG, which is going to actually decrease your free testosterone. So what do we need to do? Guys, we got to get down to 10 to 15% body fat. That's the point where you just about have visible abs. If you're not that lean, you're probably going to have some negative impacts in terms of what your hormonal environment looks like. Now, again, you don't have to have completely ripped abs, but you should not be far off. Again, we should be fairly lean all the time. If you're not lean, you're not going to be setting yourself up for an optimal hormonal environment. And so what do we need to focus on when it comes to losing body fat? Hey, the most important thing is obviously going to be that calorie deficit. A lot of people make the mistake of just trying to change their training, going high reps, going short rest periods, all of these different things to burn more calories and get lean before they actually focus on their diet. But if you want a simple, straightforward way to approach your diet, try this. Take your body weight in pounds times 10. That's how many calories you have each day. So if you're 200 pounds, that's 2,000 calories. Now, from that point, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein, that's your daily target. Next, carbohydrates, 0.75 grams per pound of body weight. In this case, you'd be about 150 grams of carbohydrates, and then 0.3 times body weight would be fat. That'll take you to about 60 grams in this case. 63, 66, something like that. That would give you a really good ballpark for an aggressive fat loss cut. Again, aggressive to help you lose that body fat quickly, but keep the protein intake high enough in order to support lean muscle and strength. So number 1, if you are over 10 to 15% body fat, it's likely negatively impacting your testosterone levels. We want to get leaner because that's going to help improve the overall hormonal environment and overall health to support optimal testosterone levels. Now, before we get into point number 2, make sure you go down below and check out the description box. I've actually added a link to our lifestyle optimization testosterone guide. In here, I'm going to give you all my best tips and strategies to help you naturally support optimal testosterone levels, from supplements, from training to sleep, lifestyle, and nutrition. So you have everything that you need all in one place. That is 100% free. Make sure you go down below and check it out right now. Strategy number 2 to optimize those testosterone levels. What are we talking about here? Getting 7 hours of sleep per night. 7 to 8 hours is going to be that sweet spot. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have time to sleep. Sleep is always difficult for me. But the reality is, it doesn't change what's happening on a physiological level, right? When we sleep is when our body regenerates. It's when it recovers, it's when it consolidates memories and all the things that we did mentally throughout the day. From a hormonal environment, every single hormone that is related to health and body composition is going to be improved by getting adequate sleep. And that's where that 7 to 9 hours comes through. Now, there are going to be time periods in life when that's not always possible, it's not always practical, right? Young kids, career, whatever it is. Hey, I've totally lived both of those things where I have not gotten that optimal sleep, and I've also seen what it does to energy levels, productivity, testosterone levels, and body composition. So we can either say, I can't do it, or we can actually suck it up and do the best that we can with the hours that we do have. And so when it comes to sleep and getting that 7 hours, here's one thing you need to understand. There have been studies, including the Chicago Sleep Study, that looked at people getting an average of 5 hours of sleep or less for 1 week. In just 1 week, that dropped testosterone levels by 10 to 15%. That is like aging you 10 to 15 years. So, if you're somebody who gets 5 or 6 hours of sleep, you've done this for a long period of time, well, guess what? What do you think that's doing to your testosterone levels? And so a lot of times we look for supplements, we look for all of these different things that we think are gonna make a big difference, when the reality is we gotta put the damn phone down and go to sleep and make it a priority. If we get that adequate sleep, it's gonna help optimize everything from a hormonal perspective and decrease cortisol to help you not only be healthier, optimize testosterone levels, but because mentally you'll be less stressed and more resilient, you're gonna be more likely to stick to the things that you need to do to support those optimal testosterone levels when it comes to your lifestyle. Now, when it does come to optimizing sleep, here's something that I like to do. It's called the 10-3-2-1 system. So 10 hours before you go to bed, that's when you want to cut out that caffeine, because caffeine has a half-life, meaning if we're talking 5 to 6 hours down the road, you're still gonna have half of the caffeine that you're having at noon in your system, which can negatively impact your ability to get to sleep. For 3, we want to start getting done with work or stopping like really high demand cognitive tasks about 3 hours before bed. If you've ever been a person who ruminates at night, who can't get to sleep because there's a million things going on, this is definitely for you. We want to cut out that work so we can actually decompress and de-stress and get to the point where we can fall asleep instead of ruminating at night. If you are the type of person who always has their mind going 24/7, 365, I would recommend journaling before you go to bed to get everything out on paper. So in the morning when you wake up, you can jumpstart all of that and you are not going to miss a beat when it comes to productivity. The 2 and the 10-3-2-1 strategy would be avoiding food closer than 2 hours before bedtime. If we have too much food in our gut and then we lay down, digestion is going to be negatively impaired. And one thing we have to understand is part of the sleep process is our body's ability to actually kind of defragment our brain and help give our organs a little bit of a break from the nonstop process of consuming food, so on and so forth throughout the day. If we're constantly jamming food into our stomach and then laying down, our digestion is going to be out of whack. Our sleep quality is going to be compromised. And so when these things happen, it's going to negatively impact the hormonal systems of your body, namely testosterone, and over time can be a huge detriment to healthy testosterone levels. And then finally, the 1 would be try to cut out electronics roughly 1 hour before bed. Now, this is not always easy. We live on electronics. We're always finger banging right here on our cell phones. But the reality is the blue light that is emitted directly from your cell phone, from your tablet, from your TV is actually going to suppress melatonin, which is going to help make it more difficult to fall asleep and get good quality sleep. So even if you don't avoid the electronics completely, try to put somewhat of a barrier in. Read a book, turn down the light, use a blue blocker glasses, even if it means cock blocking yourself. It's gonna be worth it because the sleep that you're gonna get is gonna be so much better. But ultimately, listen, sleep is not the most sexy thing, but the results you will get from improving your sleep and how it improves your testosterone will be. Now, the third component right here, if we wanna be able to naturally support optimal testosterone levels, we need to do some heavy strength training. This means we're not just doing Orange Theory, we're not just doing interval training and all of these little things trying to burn calories in the gym. If you want to build testosterone, if you want to look great naked without living in the gym, we need to get strong on basic compound exercises. We need to rest adequately between it. And so what does this look like? Here are a couple pointers when it comes to your training. Ideally, we want to be resistance training anywhere from 3 to 5 days per week. We want to be training with that frequency because the more often we can stimulate our muscles and muscle protein synthesis, the more likely we can drive some additional muscle growth. And so there's this balance between how frequently we train and our ability to recover. 3 to 5 days per week typically seems to be a sweet spot. When it comes to our workouts, we want to keep them to about an hour or less. Can you go a little bit more? Sure, but for the vast majority of people, they end up training longer, but don't focus on things like recovery and nutrition. And by extension, they actually don't recover adequately from the training that they are doing. And so we have to understand that training and recovery is this balance between these different factors, and we have to make them working in synergy or in alignment. Otherwise, you're just working hard and not getting the results or the recovery that you need from that type of training. We don't want that. We want you to be maximally efficient with what you're doing. So I like to keep those workouts 45 to about 60 minutes. Now, there has been some research that looks at increasing cortisol levels after an hour worth of training. And so you'll even see people like the Bulgarians who are competitive weightlifters, and obviously they're most likely on gear in some of the higher levels for what they do, training multiple times per day. And the reason is when you can train a muscle group more often, one, you can become more proficient at the exercise, but because we're not training longer, where we have that increase in cortisol, well, we can hopefully support optimal testosterone production. Point being, you want to get in the gym and out in give or take an hour. We don't want to be wasting our time with things that are not effective. Speaking of things that are going to be maximally effective, research has looked at the types of exercises that have the most impact when it comes to healthy testosterone levels. And what did they find out? Well, they discovered that heavy compound exercises using 70 to 90% of your 1 rep max and training close to failure to be crucial for optimizing testosterone levels. So what does this mean? This means doing things like squats, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, bent over row, lunges, and doing them with heavy loads and taking them close to failure. Now, what does close to failure look like? So for a lot of people, what we need to think about here is, gun to your head, you should only be able to do 1 to 2 reps more than what you are doing. And so for the vast majority of people, they're not quite training hard enough, and that's why they're not seeing progress in the gym. And so if you're gonna train with workouts where your volume might be a little bit lower because you're trying to get in and out and be maximally efficient, make sure you are taking those sets right to death's door. Like, they should be very, very difficult by the end. Otherwise, you're not gonna create the training stimulus that you need in order to build lean muscle. And if we're training heavy with heavy compound exercises to maximize testosterone levels, we have to make sure we're also resting adequately between these sets. Where a lot of people get messed up when it comes to their training is they start to try to burn too many calories, they start to get too light, but then they're only taking 30 seconds, 60 seconds in terms of rest. When you're training heavy compound exercises and taking them close to failure with heavy weights, you're gonna need to rest 2, 3+ minutes between those exercises in order to maximally be able to develop or to produce force and to get the most impact out of those workouts specifically. So all of this together, what do we need to focus on? What are 3 things you can do right now to improve your testosterone levels specifically with what you're doing? Number 1, get to 10 to 15% body fat. If you have excess body fat, it's gonna work like an endocrine organ. It's going to secrete we're gonna have pro-inflammatory compounds, and we're gonna have increased levels of estrogen that can drive down your testosterone levels. Number 2, 7 hours of sleep. Getting adequate sleep is gonna support every single hormonal system in your body to help you look, feel, and perform your best. Use that 10, 3, 2, 1 sleep system that I referred to. And then number 3, heavy training with compound exercises. This is crucial. We have to be training with heavy compound exercises, getting relatively close to failure. And to do that, we need adequate rest and adequate load to be able to maximize the muscle building response. Now, if you want to find out a step-by-step system to help you naturally support optimal testosterone levels without TRT, anything like that, and there's nothing against TRT, but if we can optimize it naturally, why not? Head down to the description below. I put a link to our new testosterone guide, our lifetime optimization guide, and it's going to give you everything that you need to know from training, lifestyle, supplementation, help you naturally support healthy testosterone levels so you can look your best, feel your best, perform your best mentally, physically, and in the bedroom, right? Any questions on this, drop them in the comments below. Even if you don't like it, cool. I love the hate. I love the positivity a little bit more, but let me know what you think, and I will create more videos just like this. I'll catch you in the next one.